Hello, Basic Babes. Welcome back to another episode of Your Basically with me, Shannon Nia, the founder of BAISIC. So, we've been locked in for a little bit now, so I don't feel like I have to give you the whole spiel of what Your Basically is all about. But what I can tell you that's new, fresh, and exciting is the amazing woman that we have on today. I am so excited to talk to her. Like, y'all don't even understand. We have been boo loving on Instagram for quite some time now.
Yes, it's almost a year now.
I'm gonna just pop her up because we already chatting. We have been boo loving on Instagram for about a year, talking, chatting, sharing. And I am just so thankful to even know her and have been connected to her. So before we get into our whole conversation, I'm going to let her introduce herself because that's something that we try to do here is let our beautiful women queens introduce themselves and tell you who they are. So, Keshaunia, you have the floor.
Okay.
Who are you? What are you about? What do you want the beautiful people to know about you?
Okay, so my name is Keshaunia White, and I am 36 from Virginia Beach. Okay, and I currently work with the Army, and I'm just a fun-loving, family-oriented woman.
I love that. And fun is definitely a word that I think of when I think of you. It's like you just have this, it's just something that you exude. It's just like a good time, you know?
Yes, that is me.
So I love that you described yourself that way because I would 1,000% co-sign that. And I want to ask you to start us off. You know, right now the girlies, we're all about the era, the soft girl era, the setting boundaries era, like whatever the era is. So right now, what era are you in? What would you name the time of your life right now?
So I know all over social media, everybody's talking about, like you said, the soft girl era and the setting boundaries era, but I am in a different field right now. So I think what I would call my life right now is my destruction era.
Oh.
Because I just feel like at this point in my life, I a lot of things are just crumbling around me. So I think I'm in a destruction season, but that's not to say that later on there won't be a rebuilding.
Okay, yeah.
But I do feel like that's the season I'm in right now, my era.
Yeah, and honestly, like just starting out the gate, the honesty from you, I truly admire it. It's something that I love about you because
Thank you.
not a lot of people I feel like would even say that. I'm in
Mhm.
my destruction era. You know, like sometimes we may feel that way internally. We may be going through things that make us see our life in that type of space. But to actually sit here and say that, like, wow, I'm already like,
Well, I think it's important to highlight the good and the bad
yes,
because we kind of get caught up on social media and everybody showing the positive side of life.
yes,
And a lot of us are really, really struggling. And I want to be open, honest, and transparent with some of the things that I'm struggling with. And hopefully it'll help somebody else because everything you see is not the truth. Not saying that people are just lying online, but everything is not always good. You know, there's some hard times that come up in life. So I just want to be open, honest, transparent, especially because I'm hopeful for the future, even
yeah,
in the midst of my destruction era.
yes. I like already, I'm just like, okay, yes, like this is someone needed to hear that. I feel like I even needed to hear that because I recently have been going through, you know, challenges. A lot of my challenges have been more so in the financial realm of life.
Mhm.
Coming out of a poverty and a lack mindset,
Um,
undoing a lot of generational understandings or generational mindsets.
mhm.
So even with that, I hearing you say, but I'm still hopeful. I
Yeah.
feel like that is very much in the vein that I'm into. Like I'm just still hopeful. Like I know this is not the forever. I know that there's more to this. There's gonna be an after this, like you just said as well. So that leads me to my next question for you. And even our topic for tonight is just being an overcomer.
Mhm.
So right now you're in an era where you're working through things. It may be multiple things coming at you,
Oh,
multiple things
yes.
trying to get over, get through. So how do you even approach having an overcomer mindset? Because you do, because even with you saying, like, I know I'm hopeful, I know that, I'm gonna get through this, but how do you even approach it when everything around you just feels like suffocating?
I hope this doesn't sound cliche, but it's honestly and truly nothing but God. Like, my faith is the one thing that helps me overcome or helps me know that I am going to overcome these issues. Because life is just, it just comes at you in seasons. The beginning of last year was amazing. It was the best time of my life. And then around August, everything started going downhill. And when I say it was one thing after another, but through each and every situation, even if I was hanging on by a thread, I was still holding on to my faith in God.
And that, for me, especially, definitely does not sound cliche because there are things that we go through that it just is like, how did I get here and how do I get out of here? But just knowing that faith, like just having that faith. I know one time I was going through something and I was crying to my grandma about it. And I was just like, Grandma, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm losing hope. And she stopped me mid conversation. Like, she was like, don't even finish another word, syllable, sentence, sound. She said, don't you ever lose hope and don't you ever lose faith when you know the God that you love and serve and cares about you. And we just like having that faith, it just helps you through so many things that I feel like a lot of times if we didn't have it, like we think we're in shambles, we think we're crumbling, but we would really be crumbling to not have something to believe in and something to hope for. Um
Mhm.
so even with your faith, did you always have this faith? Like even as a little girl, was this always your response, or is this something that developed through trial and error of other things that happened for you in life?
I always had it since I was a little girl. Even as a really young girl, I felt a connection with God. I always knew something was with me, even when I was little and didn't really understand everything. But I do, even in my younger years, I had moments where I still got mad at God. I had my faith, but I still got upset with God about certain things. Even the other day, I was like, God, you know what? I'm not happy with this. So I have those moments, but my faith has followed me throughout my entire life, really, since I was a little girl.
I think that's so amazing. To just have that level of faith even as a child, right?
Mhm.
And even in addition to your faith, as a child, as a young girl, how did you deal with adversity? Like when things come up for you, when things were frustrating you, when things felt hard, how did you deal with it? What was your response?
In my younger years, I didn't deal with it very well. Even though, like I said, I had my faith, but I would still get upset. As a younger girl, I let my anger get the best of me in a lot of situations. But as I got older and I started going to therapy and I started going to church, my attitude changed and I was able to control my emotions more. And I just handling the adversity that comes my way now, I kind of retreat. I don't get angry as much, but I do retreat, and I just turn to prayer. Really, I I get on my knees and I just turn to prayer and I just talk to God. I talk to him like I'm talking to you.
Mhm.
And I try to sit and listen and see if he has anything for me. He often speaks to me through dreams. So I really look for God in everything that I go through.
Yeah. And with that, the anger that you had, because I know you were saying that when you were younger, you didn't always respond well. And I know that there is a girl that is going to I got so
Come on, new word.
passionate. She going to
She
watch
going
it.
to.
There is a young girl, a young lady somewhere who is going to see this and hear that and be like, oh wait, I respond like that. I get really angry. What would you tell her? Like, what advice would you give her about finding better ways to handle her emotions and anger?
Oh, I would tell her the aftermath of not having control on your emotions can take you in places you never would even expect to go. You can end up in jail, you could end up dead. If like there's so many different situations that we see on the news and just in life in general where somebody doesn't have a good handle on their emotions, and in the heat of that moment they go out and they harm someone or they harm themselves. So it's really important to think about the consequences of your actions, even in the moment when you're upset. I know that's very hard,
Mhm.
but there are consequences to people who don't know how to control their emotions.
Yeah. And thinking back to you in that stage, in that state, what do you feel like you would have wanted to hear from somebody who could have penetrated the emotion? What would you wanted to have someone say to you to help you get through that moment?
I think what I needed to hear back then was it's okay for you to feel this way. I think a lot of my anger came from not feeling okay to be upset. And then it just made me more upset. So if somebody would have gently told me, okay, I validate your feelings. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. I think that it would have helped me a lot earlier in life.
Yeah. And I think, one thing that I try to even think through as a teacher and now as a mom is validating children's emotions.
Hmm.
Sometimes they may have a big reaction to something. This is something big that we talk about in my school. Like, okay, is your problem a small problem or a big problem? And
Hmm.
sometimes for the adult in the situation or the other person in the situation, you may think like, oh, this is a small problem. But for the person that is feeling those feelings, it's a big problem. It's a big emotion.
Hmm.
And just hearing them out and telling them, like, hey, it's okay for you to be upset right now. It's
Hmm.
okay for you to want to cry right now. It's okay for the tears to fall out your eyes right now.
Hmm.
But let's find another way to kind of deal with this because like you said, sometimes our those emotions can have really lasting impacts on our lives, even though we don't have to stay.
Hey,
Yes,
girl.
girl. Even though we don't have to stay in those spaces where those emotions may put us in or bring us to. But I think that's really important, just the validation of emotions. And even when you were growing up, do you feel like your family validated your emotions? Like, did you feel the people around you validated what you were feeling?
Not always.
Mm.
No. My mom did, but there were other people in my family who didn't. So, I would often feel like I'm being overly dramatic or I'm not being heard or um I'm just too much. For a long time I thought I was just too much even though what I felt real to me.
Mhm.
So that even put me into a season of just retreating and shutting down and not even wanting to talk to anybody about how I felt because I didn't always feel heard in my feelings.
Yeah. So how do you navigate that now? Like as an adult who can look back, see that that was something happening, notice that you were retreating, noticing the ways that you dealt with things, and feeling like now there's a better outcome. How do you navigate that now when you have those moments and you may feel like your thoughts or your feelings are not being validated? What is your go-to methods to handle that or go through that?
Now I actually speak over myself and I say, no, it is okay for me to feel however I'm feeling now. And I don't feel ashamed. If I feel a way nowadays, that's just how I feel. And I don't apologize for it. I don't feel bad for it because I do believe that my feelings are valid in that moment.
Yeah. And I am taking from that because I'm in a place where I do tell myself that my feelings are valid and I'm valid to feel the way that I feel while also battling the people pleaser spirit and energy and like wanting everyone to feel included, even when it comes to my emotions, which I know is not a healthy thing to always do, because then you get put on the back burner, your feelings start to get buried under other things. So I just like am even taking from what you just said, like it is okay
Yes.
to be valid and to say what you feel and not be afraid. Of course, like you don't want to just guns blazing all the time, offend
Right.
people, things like that. But also telling yourself, like, hey, if this is what you're feeling, it is okay for you to express that. So I'm really glad that that is something that you do and that is something that you try to bring to the spaces that you're in because it's important.
I
And mhm.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say because you mentioned, with the guns blazing, for people who are people pleasers, I was one, and that's the extreme that I went to when I decided,
Mhm.
I'm tired of people pleasing. I went to straight, it is what it is. You
Right.
know? And that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
So, it is important to find that happy medium where you're not letting people walk all over you, but you're also not unpleasant to be around. Because there
Yeah.
was a season where I was unpleasant to be around because it was no, no, I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that, I don't care, I'm saying what I want to say. And it's just there's a happy medium in that space.
Yeah. Cause I don't feel like I ever made it fully to that other side, but I do know in high school at one point, even like sometimes in college, I was just like, oh well, I'm gonna stop being nice because everybody's being like taking advantage of me and I don't like it and I'm just gonna like not be
Yeah.
available. And
Yeah.
it just felt so unnatural to
Mhm.
me to
Yeah.
be in that space to even have that mentality. And at one point, eventually, I was like, okay, listen, there, like you said, it has to be a medium ground. I can still be the nurturer and have boundaries. I can still be
Mhm.
considerate of what other people are saying, but if I know that I'm standing firm in a decision or a suggestion or whatever it is, I'm gonna stand 10 toes down with my rationale, even
Yes.
if people do not agree, because then we get into spaces where, just like you said, when it comes to having those big emotions and having that anger, and it could lead you in a path that you didn't really necessarily want to be in. Being on that side of things can also lead you into pathways of things that you don't actually want to be in, because now you're coming out of yourself and
Mm-hmm.
you're being authentic to how you feel or even who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So even thinking through being authentic, just being yourself, being free. Because
Yeah.
honestly, when we're just ourselves, like
Mm-hmm.
the sigh of relief is just freedom. It's just like you're just attached to things that are meant for you. You're just flowing in the things that God has for you. So how do you just remain you? It sounds like such a simple question, but just like how do you just stay you in all spaces and all aspects of where you are?
I think what helps me stay me is, for one, the fact that I truly love who I am, even through the flaws, the things that I don't always like about myself. I love who I am as a whole. So who I am as a whole feels good to me. So that's why it's just so easy for me to always be myself.
And that shows, like, honestly, just as someone who sees you, who who sees your stories that you put up, the posts that you put up.
I know it can be a little bit too much, but
No, listen, I feel like, yes, this is what we need to see, because honestly, it is something that a lot of us don't do. Like, we don't show that love. And even sometimes when we're trying to push through it and like get to that place, it just exudes from you. Like it just shows. I think like right now in my brain, I see the video of you with your blue dress on, the
oh,
sparkly dress when you was at your photo shoot, and it was just like, I'm posing, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous,
yes,
like
I
I'm
love
great.
that
Yeah,
shoot.
like it was just so good, and I'm like, yes, this is what I think of when I see a woman who's just comfortable in
Yes.
her skin, who is just feeling herself, but not in like a, I feel like I'm better than everybody else, but like I
Oh,
really love myself. I love who I've come to be. And I
I
know a lot of that stems from the things that you overcome, the
Mhm.
things that
Speaking.
have made it through, it's like, hey, I made it through some things, so I need to celebrate me. And that's
Yes.
the
Oh,
vibe that I get from you. So
yes.
tell us about, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but just give us a story, put us in a place with you of a time that you overcame something and it taught you about another beautiful level of yourself.
Okay. So this situation is very difficult, but when I was 19, I was held at gunpoint by someone I was seeing, and it was probably one of the most difficult, the scariest thing I have ever been through. When you're held at gunpoint, you just see your entire life flash before your eyes. But thankfully, there was someone else there to save me from that situation. Um, and afterwards, I was so distraught and so depressed, and I was trying to figure out, like, what is it about me that made this person so aggressive towards me. With, I was just thinking all of these things. But I had the support of my friends, I had the support of my family, and again, I had that faith that I always had. I said, yes, this situation is probably the most difficult situation I've ever been through, but I'm going to get through it. And even though I was depressed and distraught for months after this, and sometimes I still cry about that because it was such a traumatic experience,
Yeah.
um, I overcame it. I wasn't afraid of him anymore after a few months. I wasn't, I just didn't live my life in fear like I used to. Because, of course, after a situation like that, you start living in fear. You're just afraid.
Absolutely.
But I truly overcame that situation. And that was probably the situation that let me know that if I can overcome that, I can overcome anything.
Mm.
So that was definitely one of the worst situations I've ever been through. But I'm still here. I'm
Yeah.
still happy. I still love myself, and I thank God for it all. I do.
Yes. I'm just thanking God myself internally, like that you survived that situation, that you are able to use it as like a motivator, not even just a motivator, a reminder
Mhm.
of your ability to overcome hard things. Because that, like you said, that's something so traumatic.
Yeah. I
It's
still get emotional about it sometimes. Uh,
yeah,
As my therapist told me that I have a memory for my trauma. Like, I can remember what I was wearing, I can remember what was said, and sometimes those thoughts still come back up. Um,
Jesus.
but it just lets me know that I'm here for a reason.
Hmm.
For a reason.
Hmm. And I truly, truly believe that for you to be able to, and I know that is just one of many things that you've come through. I know even things that you've shared on your stories about things that you have overcome, about thoughts of yourself being taken advantage of, being like all of these different things that a lot of people can't even press through mentally, that
Mhm.
you're sitting here being able to share them even when it's hard and being an overcomer. I know that it is, you're here for people to get free, to be
Mhm.
able to see you pressing through it and being able to still be joyful, to still be a good time, like that
Yes.
I talked about in the beginning, like you just give that feel of a good time, like just joyful, hopeful, alive, and just
Mhm.
living in your story, living in your truth, living in your freedom. And I just thank you for even sharing that with us, because I know that it's not easy to bring things like that back to the forefront. Even if you're just kind of mentioning it briefly, I know that sometimes it still brings all of the things back to the surface. So for a little key who's watching, for that girl who's watching, for even a woman who may be in a situation that is unsafe for her, that is making her feel like she may not ever get through it, what would you say to her as a testimony, as a testimony sitting and speaking before us? What would you say to her to help encourage her tonight?
I would say in my 36 years of living, I've had so many highs, so many lows, but the thing that I remember is that my lows, they don't last always. Life comes in seasons. You're going to have some good days, you're going to have some bad days, but you won't stay in that space forever. So I would say stay hopeful, have a support system. If you have friends, I cannot tell you how my sisters, my best friends, they've supported me through so many different traumatic events that I went through. So lean on your friends, lean on your family. Don't hold it in, speak out, be confident, and just hold on to your faith in God. Or if you have other faith and other beliefs, hold on to your faith, period.
Thank you so much, Keshaunia, for sharing, for that encouragement. Just thank you for being you. Like, just
Oh,
thank you
thank
for
you for liking me.
you. Honestly, huge fan. Okay, huge fan. I'm just
I'm a fan too, Shannon. I am a big fan of you, okay?
I'm just like this. I'm telling you, you just encourage me to really just go for it. Like, just put yourself out there. Just like hype yourself up, be your
Yes.
hype team. You know, we have people in our lives who love us, which is such a beautiful blessing. And we have each other in our network of
Yes.
sisters, and we support each other in the things
Yes.
that we do. But you just, every time you pop up on my feed, whether it's in a story or a post, I'm just like, oh, yes. Like, she encourages me to just love me,
Yes.
just
Yes.
like be that light and be that joy, and just knowing the things that you have overcome. And I know I keep saying the word overcome, but I feel like it's so important to stand, because
Mhm.
those things could have made you a totally different
Oh,
person.
yes.
You chose not to
Mhm.
be in that space. So I just honor you for that. I just thank you
Thank
for sharing your faith. And if the people want to get in contact with you, if they want to talk to you more, if they want to slide in your DM to share something, how can they get in contact with you?
So I'm on IG as Shauna the Great. So Shauna has an I in it. So it's Shaunia the Great. And then I'm also on TikTok as Kiki Keek. No, I'm sorry. I'm spelling it wrong. Kiki Keke the Great One. TikTok is a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun over there. So come follow me
TikTok is
there.
a fun place. It's for the fun people like
Yes.
you. That's where
So
it's
come
at.
on, come follow me. I follow you back. Okay, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. Okay.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
And
Shannon.
please, y'all, go follow her. Go hit her up. She is just a open book. She will talk to you about
Yes.
all the things, and she's patient. Because let me just be transparent with y'all. I'm so bad with being responsive on Instagram, and I've
Oh,
been wanting to talk to people, and I'm just like, oh God, this is a message. But she's always so graceful and gracious, and is always, we just pick up right where we left off
no,
every.
and can I just say also how you are patient too? I'm so sorry I was late today. So sorry. I'm so
It's okay.
sorry.
It's okay. We here, and you still got to share, and that is what is important to me. Okay. So
Yes.
I thank you. So basic babes, we just spoke to the beautiful Keshaunia White. She was sharing with us how she is an overcomer. She shared with us something that was just so deeply personal, and something that could have taken her mind in a whole different direction, but she overcame it, and is even here today to talk to us all about how you can hold on to faith, how you can become a better version of yourself, and how you can love yourself out loud no matter what. So I'm just so thankful for her. So, what did you take away from this conversation? What is something that you learned, a little nugget that she dropped that you was like, oh, let me hold on to that? Drop it in the comments below. We want to talk. Like, talk to me in my New York girl accent. We want to talk. We want to hear what you took away from that. Make sure you connect with us. And until next time, bye.